Hey, it's Jack. Welcome to the High Road. Live Q&A. Happy Friday. We will have 30 minutes of questions, comments, and conversation for the top of the hour, where we air once again a new episode, all new episode, mini segment of the High Road, which is my journey throughout the United States, talking to people who experimented with, tried, and most of the time benefited from medicinal CBD and THC. That was my journey as well, going through cancer and chemo and the problems therein. Someone recommended CBD. I tried it and it worked for me. But it's not just about that. It's about, like the title says, the high road, taking taking a better path, perhaps, to make your life better, whatever that means. Looking for happiness. Most of us are happy when we're not in pain, whether that's physical, emotional, psychological pain, spiritual pain, however you want to say it. And for a lot of people, CBD has helped. Some, probably not. Even pets. Next week, I take you to a place that makes pet food that has CBD in it, and really wonderful dog stories about how much they've been helped with it. But today, at the top of the hour, and this show runs every same time, every week, Friday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Then at the top of the hour, we have an episode in Kentucky. I visited a place called Flavor Man. Now, whether it's CBD drinks, alcohol, beverages, they make every flavor known to man. Interesting place. I tried a lot of them. We don't get to show them in the show because it's a mini segment, but you'll have to click on this right here. Yusuf, can you bring that up at the top of the hour? You click on this thumbnail, and because this right now, this live Q&A will not run into it. You'll have to click on that thumbnail, and you'll see the episode, and then my interview with Smoke Wallen, who's the CEO of Vertical Wellness, and on all the flavors we tried, and now it's kind of on hold, as you'll hear him explain. But CBD in beverages, I think, is going to be the next great trend. One of them, certainly. And you see now some people are mixing alcohol with CBD or THC in different food products, mostly illegally, of course. But you've heard of it, I'm sure, brownies, etc. Well, I think it's the wave of the future to legalize this, to regulate it, to standardize it, and make it available, whether it's CBD or THC. So that's what we got upcoming at the top of the hour and next week. If I were to say a word to you, what's the first thing that comes to your head? For instance, awful, terrible, bad, no good, right? It used to mean full of awe. Who knew? Naughty. Oh, that's kind of bad. Little cheeky, little risque. Used to mean having nothing, having not, or naughty. And so we could go all day, I suppose. Clue. Get a clue, have a clue. Clue, like a detective. It used to be a ball of yarn centuries ago. So words, of course, their meanings change over the years, decades, centuries, etc. So this is what I want to talk about. Dr. Torres is with us again because you asked for her. She's just a wonderful wellspring of information about CBD, THC. She's writing a book she has coming out soon, but she answers all my questions. She's my pain doctor at one time, and let me try to adjust the light. I don't know what's going on with that crazy thing here. In any event, she's really knowledgeable. But she discovered this week, we're having a conversation, she discovered that the meaning, even cannabis, how that's changing and what it means, and hemp and everything else. And also a third strain. It used to be indica and sativa, as far as I know, hybrids. She tells me there's more. So say hi to Dr. Monica Torres, who knows so much more than I do. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's talk about that. You were telling me when we were talking about it that now what we thought of as cannabis is now maybe not that, or indica and the strains. And again, you say it so much better than me. So please explain.
Yes, the nomenclature has changed a lot throughout the years and centuries, for that matter. I hear
You
most.
know that about Clue and Naughty and
Oh,
Office? You know that?
it's been a while. Jack.
No, did you know about those words mean having different meanings before? Or you're not paying attention to the
I
intro?
wasn't
That's
paying
okay.
attention to you at all.
I love your honesty. All right, just take it from here. I'll go hide in the corner somewhere. Go ahead.
So, Carl Hillig is he was working on his dissertation at Indiana University, and he realized that there was so much discrepancy between the word indica and sativa. Most people think of indica meaning indicouch, meaning very intoxicating, sedating, and sativa as uplifting, energetic, and that's not the case. What he found was, after exploring the genetics of the different cannabis varieties, he realized that there was a small set of genes that were primarily of the fiber type cannabis, and then a small set of genes that were for drug rich or THC dominant cannabis. And he decided to name the fiber type, or what we know as hemp, as cannabis sativa, and the drug rich or THC dominant as cannabis indica. And then he further distinguished the indica variety into two separate categories: narrow leaflet drug and broad leaflet drug. And what we have today in our dispensaries is a hybrid of the two. So to differentiate cannabis into, indica and sativa as energizing versus relaxing is no longer valid in the scientific community. And I would go as far as to say that hemp and marijuana are words that were used and adopted by culture to describe cannabis that was THC dominant or CBD dominant. So hemp, as we know, is CBD dominant, which should be called in the scientific communities cannabis sativa, and THC dominant as cannabis indica.
Okay, so that's very confusing. I thought that sativa gave you a bit of a boost and it had THC, and indicouch, it relaxed you more. And then there was the hybrid of the two of them, and hemp was hemp, or hemp-derived CBD, which was basically mostly for the neck down, inflammation, help you sleep, etc., anxiety. But in the scientific community, the medical community as well, you say it's changing.
Well, since the 2004, when Carl Hillig made that distinction, yes, I mean, it's always changing, and things are going to change constantly. In fact, I think now that we're differentiating cannabis as far as like its THC content, but I have a feeling in the future we're going to be looking at terpenes and what they do, because as we know, terpenes interact with the phytocannabinoids and in the entourage effect. They help boost the CBD and the THC effects in our body. So
Okay.
it's going to continue to change, Jack, and it's going to get confusing from here on out.
Yeah, well, I'm way behind the curve. That's in the scientific community. When does it hit the street? That's when I'll start paying attention, because I'm not in the scientific community, of course.
Yeah, and I try to stay away from using the words hemp and marijuana, because especially marijuana, because as we know, there's a negative, anti-Mexican sentiment with that word. That goes along with the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937. In the 1920s, there was a rush of Mexican immigrants, and they were seen as smoking pot, smoking weed, getting high, and then it led to reefer madness. And so marijuana has this negative, perception of just intoxicating without any medicinal benefits. And that was, of course, completely the nail in the coffin was the Controlled Substances Act in 1970, which means there's no medicinal benefit with cannabis, which is not true, clearly. And with the Farm Bill of 2018, now cannabis is coming back into our minds and in the forefront. However, the distinction is it must contain less than 0.3% THC for it to be legal.
So I would call that, most of us would call that hemp. You say it's cannabis sativa.
Yes.
Wow, was that confusing? Yeah, I thought Tricky Dick Nixon really did us all a disservice as he tried to become the law and order president, tough on crime, etc. And he signed that bill, I think it was 1970, that made so-called marijuana a Schedule I drug right up there with heroin, which is absolutely ridiculous. Not only is it not that, now we've found that there are medical benefits from cannabis. Let's just call that in general, for lack of a better term, right now, just to differentiate. And also in that category were psychedelics. And we find that now they could be beneficial for certain things, certain traumas and PTSD. Why were we so off?
Well, I don't think we're off. The issue is we've been using these substances for centuries before, and the political climate has changed. Lawmakers are now in the forefront of medicine. Pharmaceutical companies are making decisions. Insurance companies are making decisions for physicians as to which medication to prescribe. So much has changed. Back, in the 1900s, 1800s, and beyond, we were using cannabis. We were prescribing cannabis. I remember I was doing research the other day, and I came across an actual prescription of cannabis written in 1929. And
wow,
that's where it was. And because of the laws that have, transpired since then, cannabis has been seen as a negative thing. And, I feel quite differently. I think opiates can be just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than cannabis.
I'd say a lot more dangerous. I know they're helpful. As I've said many times, they have their place, but it seems opiates are a lot more dangerous than cannabis. For instance, opiates have killed people. Nobody's ever overdosed and died from cannabis. Maybe that oversimplifies it, but as far as I know, that's true.
Well, we don't have any CB1 or CB2 receptors in the brainstem, which controls respiration. That's where we have our respiratory center. But there are mu receptors, which opiates interact with the mu receptor in the brainstem. So that's why opiate medication, if you overdose it, you lose your sense of respiration, you stop breathing, and you can die from that. It does not hold true for cannabis. Even THC dominant strains, they don't cause for you to stop breathing or die.
There you go. I think that's a big plus right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
If you have any questions for Dr. Torres, any comments, let us know, and we'll put you on. We'll do our best to get to them. So when we were on the phone discussing the episode upcoming, and you were telling me what you'd like to talk about, you said there's a third strain that I had never heard of. I had heard of sativa, of course, and indica. What's this third strain, and what is it all about?
Well, it's a third species called Ruderalis. And what's interesting about it is that it has auto-flowering mechanism, which means it doesn't depend on light and dark cycles to produce flowers. And that's what we need. We need the cannabis plant to flower, so that way it produces resin, which is where a lot of the phytocannabinoids and THC, including THC and CBD, are present, as well as terpenes. So what's really cool is that growers can use the Ruderalis species and not have any problems with cultivating it, and it's easy to grow. Mm-hmm.
I think we have a graphic to show about that.
Yes, this is just a distinction between sativa, indica, and Ruderalis. Again, sativa is the hemp variety, and it's CBD dominant. Indica is a THC dominant, and then it's further divided into narrow leaflet, broad leaflet, and a hybrid. And then, of course, Ruderalis, which is CBD dominant, and it autoflowers. And thanks to Carl Hillig, we have this distinction.
All right, wait a minute. That was in 2004. How come I never heard of Ruderalis? I mean, I've been around a few people who've been around some things. I never heard of that. And I did a show called The High Road about it. It never came up once, I don't think. There
is so much information available, so much research going on that it changes from moment to moment. I'd like to make a comment that, Raphael Mechoulam, as we know, he discovered THC, which then led us to discover that we have an endocannabinoid system within our bodies, and then led to the discovery of CBD. But what was cool about CBD is that in its raw form, THC is the acidic form, THCA, or CBD is CBDA, which is the acidic form, which is how we make THC and CBD is by decarboxylation or heating THCA into THC. You heat CBDA to make CBD, which is what we use in today's products. But Raphael Mechoulam has now discovered through his research that he's able to stabilize CBDA, which scientists were not able to do that before, and has found out that CBDA is 1,000 times more potent than CBD, which is what we're using and which has already been so powerful for so many people.
Wait a minute, 1,000 times more? Is that even out yet? Is it available?
But you know,
I can't hear. When we speak over each other, it cuts us both off. So I'm sorry. Say that again.
The issue is that it's more powerful than CBD.
So where is it? Where can we get that for those who need it? I don't think it's out yet. Is it? Is it readily available for consumption?
It's not readily available just yet.
Will it be in the future, the near future?
Well, I think so. What Dr. Mechoulam has done is he's patented, and he has it available for any drug companies who want to purchase that content, the ability, the extraction method, and hopefully will be available for use for medicinal purposes.
I dumb this down for me because I'm not too bright. He found a substance inside of cannabis called CBDA, the acidic form of CBD, and it's 1,000 times more potent than what we know as CBD that you can find in products now. 1,000 times more. It's already in the plant. Is it the way he extracted it that he put the trademark on, or whatever that's called, some kind of proprietary thing? Or what if someone else were to do the same thing? Then they could, or is it just his now? How does that work?
Nobody was able to figure out how to stabilize the acidic form of CBD. And he has been able to do that, which no scientist has been able to do. So he has this ability to do that, and he's willing to share that information, of course, for a cost, and especially to drug companies, because yeah,
absolutely. Of course. You know, you like to think that everyone who works in science is just doing it for the betterment of mankind, but that's they also want to make money, right? It's not the case that they just try to give it away. By the way, sidebar issue here. How do you get that lighting so good? My thing was flashing. See that? It's flashing, so it's blown out. I have too much light. How do you get your lighting so good? I guess because you have a good subject to work with. Good for you. All right.
I don't even know. It's natural lighting, and I have an overhead light.
Oh my goodness. Okay. See, I need all the help in the world. Yusuf is our producer again today. Yusuf, any questions for Dr. Torres or comments? Are the different varieties from the different areas in the world? Same as James Michener. What do you think, Doug?
Yes, James. And that's what Carl Hillig did. He studied the different varieties from all around the world. And that's where he was able to find the genetic differences between sativa and indica.
So just like coffee, you know, again, we have to dumb it down for me, but some of the best coffee in the world I know comes from Colombia or Jamaica, Hawaii, right? So do you know where the plants are that are the most potent or the most effective anywhere from around the world that you, or maybe Dr. Mechoulam has discovered?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't read any research on that just yet. I can look it up and get back to you.
I'm just curious. It doesn't matter, I suppose. It's also easy now as it becomes more legalized, and I guess people are more open-minded about it. You could just go into a store and buy it. And I think that's the future. I don't think that suddenly someone's going to pull the rug out. It doesn't matter who's in the White House or the makeup of the Congress. I believe that it's pretty much, as my upcoming guest, Smoke Wallen, says, pretty much a bipartisan issue. There's so much money there to be made for the government through taxation, etc. And they like regulating things. So, of course, this is a good thing to regulate so that it's even across the board. If you buy something and it says X amount of milligrams, you want to know what you're getting is what's on the bottle. And I know you've discovered there's been some problems with that. Yes?
Absolutely. As far as what's labeled on products, it's either underreporting or overreporting the amount of CBD and THC.
And so with what regulation, standardization, it's obviously a good thing, not only for the industry, but for us as consumers as well. So I hope they get that straightened out sometime soon. Well,
Yes.
I think we have some more questions for you. Can you take a couple before you get out of here?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Yusuf, what do you got? Hi, Chris. What is the difference between broad spectrum CBD and full spectrum CBD? Good question.
I believe they're the same. Broad spectrum is just qualifying what it is. It has a very broad spectrum versus full spectrum. I believe they're synonymous. They're the same.
It's funny, when I was on the road doing the show, a lot of people were saying that they preferred isolates because they felt it was more powerful, that, it was concentrated. They often interchange words like we were talking about with wordplay and language. That's not the case, is it, though?
Well, I'm not a fan of CBD isolates because they have a stronger drug interaction than the full spectrum CBD products. I mean, they are powerful, so to speak, but you're also missing the entourage effect of the other phytocannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids that work together and actually make the CBD work even better than if it was by itself. So in my personal opinion, I'm not a big fan of the CBD isolates. There seem to be more side effects and drug interactions, and I'm a big fan of the full spectrum.
You mentioned terpenes. I know that, well done, says Kate Parcell. I'm not sure about that last name, Shikoyan. Fantastic show with useful info. Thank you, Kate. You mentioned terpenes, Doc. From your perspective, from a medical perspective, can you tell us about that? Because I know that it has to do with the flavor, also the taste. Mm-hmm. And at the top of the hour, I go to this place called Flavor Man, and they make all the flavors in the world as it pertains to CBD as well. So explain terpenes a little from your perspective, please.
Well, I consider terpenes the essential oil of the cannabis plant. It gives its flavor and aroma. And a lot of the terpenes that are available in the cannabis plant occur in other plants as well. And more research is actually geared towards terpenes and its ability to interact with the phytocannabinoids like beta-myrcene and some other, I'm just drawing a blank. But yes, I mean, terpenes are becoming in the forefront. Like I said before, I think we're going to differentiate cannabis not just on THC content, but the amount of terpenes and the different terpenes available.
You could throw some comments up there too, Yusuf, if you want. Anyone wants to comment. Thanks for the info, says Angie Dickinson. You're welcome, Angie. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Jack. Thank you, Doc, for all the info. Marianne Atkinson. My pleasure. And thank you for coming on with us, Doc. We have a couple of more minutes. Can you stay with us till the top of the hour?
I think I can. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Marianne says, with the pandemic going on, what would be the best type of CBD recommended for stress?
So I would recommend CBD dominant products for stress. What happens when you get a product that has THC dominant, meaning greater than 0.3%, you're going to get, I mean, there's a ability if you take too much THC to induce anxiety, which is what we don't want. We want something very relaxing and calming. And what cannabinoids do, such as CBD, is it helps us relax and be calm. So when you're looking for a CBD product, I recommend CBD dominant, which means cannabis sativa, has less than 0.3% THC, and that it is full spectrum. And it is whole plant, meaning there's terpenes and flavonoids and phytocannabinoids in the product. And make sure that it's been tested by a third party laboratory, meaning you can scan the QR code or scan or look up the batch number and find out if it's been tested for any toxins or bacteria or fungi. So that's important to look for.
You always have so much helpful information. Thank you for joining us. This is great. We had a question last week we didn't get to. Hopefully you can answer. Somebody asked you, of course, we didn't. I'm sorry we didn't get to it because I think it's a really great question. They wanted to take some CBD to help them sleep, and they wanted to know why CBD helps you sleep, and would you then be groggy the next day, like so many things that do help you sleep? I thought it was a great question.
That is a good question. And no, it's not meant to make you feel groggy like Benadryl or some of the other sleep aids that are available. And what CBD does is it actually indirectly works with the CB1 and CB2 receptors. So we produce anandamide and 2-AG within our bodies. And this anandamide binds to CB1 or CB2 receptors like a lock and key. And what CBD does is it prevents it from being metabolized and removed from the system. So you have more CBD available to provide more of a calming effect.
Wow, that's amazing. If someone would have told me just even a couple of years ago that I'm going to be diving headfirst into all things CBD, THC, etc., because I was not a user growing up. You either got stoned or you didn't. There was really no in between. And the first time I had it was when I was doing this show called Booze Traveler, and I had it in Nepal in a drink the first time I tried it. And since then, your recommendation and others led me to try different CBD products, some full spectrum or broad spectrum, some with THC. And it's really been great because, and I'm so mad because no, that can't be medicine. There's no way. And it is. I mean, there's lots of ways to look at anything. You could overdo anything, I suppose. And there's not one thing on earth that works for everybody. But I think the beauty of this is that we thought it was a negative. Not only is it not a negative for the most part, but it can be really beneficial. I think the future is very exciting for cannabis.
I agree. And as we do more research and randomized controlled trials, the more we're going to know about the benefits. And I know that there's a lot, like Ziva Cooper, she's in California, and she just received a grant for more research on CBD and THC, which is exciting.
So what's the future in your mind? I mean, as a doctor, I know that it at one time it wasn't well received at all in the medical community. More so now. Would you say you're a little ahead of the curve in that, or are people catching up to you?
Well, I think we're having more discussions about it. I'm actually going to do a presentation for my company to educate other physicians around the country about CBD and cannabis and its role in medicine, because our patients are taking it, and sometimes it's not discussed during our visits. And I wish there was more of an open dialogue. And I think when doctors bring it up or ask, patients are more open to discussing it and actually saying, yeah, I did try it, and this is what happened.
Let's get that banner up there so people get a hold of. You can follow Dr. Monica Torres at Monica Torres MD on Instagram. You're writing a book. Have you settled on a title? I know you were going back and forth there for a minute.
No, not yet. I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll have you on again, and we'll help you promote it, because if it's anything like your visits to our show, I'm sure we can learn a lot of stuff. Top of the hour, we have a mini segment for you, followed by an interview. You'll have to click right here. Dr. Monica Torres, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being with us right here. Let's see that again. You can click on that on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching this. Let's go back to Dr. Torres. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again soon. Okay, Doc?
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
It's always a pleasure having you on. And thank you for joining me. Here's another segment of The High Road.